In this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the absolute basics of setting up relationships in FileMaker. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another FileMaker beginner tutorial. My name is Sunny Chu, and today we are going to talk about relationship basics in FileMaker. And this topic is probably one of the most requested topic. I have a lot of people asking me to create. And here is how I plan to do it. So by the end of this tutorial, we should be able to create this very simple patient and medical log database. So what it does is that you will have a patient here, and then he can have multiple different logs. So if I add a medical log here, I can start typing in something here. And then I can also add another patient, and let's call him, let's say John, and then add a medical record for John. And then I can move back and forth between records, and the medical log is going to be able to relate correctly to the main record. So this is what we're going to do, and let me just give you a quick overview of how this tutorial is going to go. So this tutorial is going to be split into two different sections. In the first section, I'm going to discuss with you the general concept of what is relational database and how it works. Well, that's because I got a lot of people asking me a lot of relationship related questions. For example, like how do I join table, or how do I use a portal? What I realized is they're not actually having problem with navigating through FileMaker and creating these things, but actually they are having problem with understanding this general concept and how it works. So once I go through this and you have a basic concept, this is where we are going to move on to part 2, which is how do I apply this into FileMaker? And this is the part where we will be building that patient log database and then start connecting relationship, setting up key fields, and creating the mechanism to add and remove the related records. So that's the general direction of how this tutorial will go, and let's get started. So I want to start off by explaining what is relationship in the database settings, and let's use a quick example. So let's say you are working for a business and you have multiple different customers, a blue customer, a green customer, and an orange customer. And then on the other side of the table, each customer has made some sales. So blue customer making the blue sales, orange making the orange, so on and so forth. And what we want the computer to do is to really connect the dots and know that there's a relationship between the blue customer and the blue sales. So the question here is, how does the computer know? Because right now I'm using color code and it's more like a visual illustrated method, but the computer doesn't think this way. They think in ones and zeros. How do they know? Well, the answer is by matching. I'll explain further. So using the example that we had just now, I have created a scenario where it kind of resembles what I just explained. So on the left side here, we have a customer table with the customer name and the address. On the right side here, we have the sales table with which customer brought which item on which date. And I've also left the color code here for you to understand easier. So Sunny has brought a chair and a lamp. The way that computer knows the relationship is by matching. So let me show you in a more visual way of how it works. And first, let me switch the position here and then remove the color code. So the way matching works is that the computer will first look at Sunny in here, and then it will try to search in the sales table any customer with the value Sunny. And then once it's able to match things together, it's going to be related. And then now I'll know that Sunny has brought a chair and a lamp, Karen has brought a sofa, a table, and a bed, and Jack has brought a table and a chair. So that is the most basic core of how matching works and how relationship works in the database settings. You do that by matching two fields together, and if it's the same, then it's related. So with the way that things are being set up right now, it's actually still not the most proper way to handle relationship in a database setting. That's because we are using the customer name as the matching field. Now there are two problems with using a customer name as a matching field. The first problem is that, let's say Jack decides to change his name to Harry, like this. Now the computer will now look at this record, Harry, and trying to find a related record in sales by looking into the customer that matches with Harry. And as you notice that the name doesn't change on the other side, so it will not be able to match correctly. And this is only the first problem. And the second problem is, even if Jack from Sydney decides to change his name back, but what happens if there's another Jack being entered into the system? So let's say there's another customer called Jack, and Jack from London is also in the system as well. The computer will now not be able to distinguish between the two, and there will be error relationship being created. So Jack from London will be thought by the computer that he brought a chair and a table, when in fact it's not true. So that's the two main problems with using name as a matching field. So we actually need a solution to handle this. How do we do it? I want to introduce you to the concept of key fields. So the concept of key fields is actually very simple. So instead of using the customer name as the matching field, we're going to create a new field called ID. So we'll have a customer ID in here, and the rules with this ID key field is that it has to be unique for each of the record. So Sunny ID1, Karen ID2, Jack ID3, and every new record created cannot use the same ID as the previous record in order to maintain a organized and clean manner. And what happened on the other side, on the sales table, is that instead of using the customer name, we're going to use the customer ID instead as the matching field. So now, Sunny is able to match ID number 1 to the sales with the customer ID number 1, and we can now see that Sunny has brought a chair and a lamp. And this is able to handle the two issues that we mentioned just now. So for example, if I decide to change my name to Chu, it doesn't really affect anything because it's connected with the ID but not with the name. I can change it to whatever I want and it still won't affect the table relationship. And let's say if I change my name back to Sunny, but there's another Sunny from Moscow being added to the table. Because it's always going to be unique, the ID, so Sunny from Moscow will not affect the record I have of Sunny from Hong Kong. So you can see that using the ID, we are able to handle the two main problems of matching in a very elegant way. So that's the core concept of a relational database. And as a summary, we have a customer ID here that is used to identify this record in this table. So this is actually what we call a primary key. And on the other hand here, we have a sales table that uses a primary key from the customer table. So I'm using this field to identify record from another table. And this is what we call a foreign key. The main concept with relational database is that you want to understand this concept deep enough that you know how to design a table that can facilitate such key fields' existence. And that's what we're going to do in the next part of this tutorial. We're going to work on the patient database and start by setting up the table. So there are 4 general steps that you need to follow in order for you to set up a relationship in FileMaker and use it in the layout. The first step is that you have to set up the table. As I mentioned just now that you need a primary key and a foreign key being set up in each of your table in order for them to work and match correctly. This is the first step we need to do. We need to set up a table, and once we do that, the next thing we want to do is to connect the primary key and the foreign key in the FileMaker relationship graph. And with these two things being set up, we are now able to go to the third step, which is to set up a layout so that you can view records in relation to the relationship that you just set up. And the final step is that once you have a way to view the records, you of course want some way so that you can add and remove related records easily. And this is the 4 things that we are going to go through today using the example of a patient medical record. Now, the reason why we're using this as an example is because we have a private Facebook community group and we kind of voted and decided we want medical record as the example for this particular tutorial. So if you want to get more involved and learn more about FileMaker with other beginners, definitely come and have a look at our group. It's in the link in the description down below. And back to the topic. We're going to create something very simple. We're going to have one patient having multiple medical records for the visit. That's all there is. And we're going to create that in the layout that I showed you at the beginning of this tutorial. And we're back to the desktop. To do a quick recap, we are going to open the folder after. Now you can download this before and after file in the link in the description down below. And let's have a look at what we are trying to achieve in here. So as I showed you earlier, the after file is able to allow you to create multiple records for this person. And you can also delete related record easily like this. Add, delete. That's pretty much all there is. And to progress further, I have already prepared a before file so that you don't have to work through all the layouts, look and stuff, and just work straight into the relationship part of this. So open the before file, and you will notice that things are pretty much being set up like 50%. And the first step we want to do is to set up the table. So let's go to File, Manage, Database, and look at how everything is currently being set up. So right now I have two tables in here, patient and medical records. And inside the patient, I have name, age, gender, and photo. And inside medical record, I have date and description. So to give you like a more clear idea of what is happening, is that we currently have this two table in here. So we have a gender, age, and name for the patient, medical record, visit date, and also the detail here. What we want to do is to set up a patient ID primary key, and then set up another patient ID foreign key on the medical side of things. And so let's get started. So if we go back to the manage database, I want to go to my patient record here and then create a patient underscore ID here. Click create. Now, once this is set up, I want to show you something. So if I click on OK now, and I'm going to go to view, layout mode, and then add that field into my table. Copy, paste, and add the patient ID. So like this, ID. When I create a new record, it doesn't automatically have a unique number in here. So what we want to do is that whenever we create a new record, it will automatically assign a unique ID number. So in order to do that, we need to go to database and double click onto our patient ID. And on the auto enter tab, there's a serial number in here. So we can set that the patient code will start with P. P0001 is the first patient code. And then every time you create, it will be incremented by 1. So the next one will be P0002. Click OK. Click OK again. Once you have that set up, click on New Record. You will notice the next patient will have P001 starting. Next patient will have P002 starting. So that's the general concept. And let's just clean up all the records in here so that we have a brand new record. Now we set up the primary key, and the next thing we want to do is to set up the foreign key. So go back to Manage, Database, and then we are going to go to Medical Record. And we want to set up a patient ID here as well. And this is a foreign key. And you don't really need to set up anything in here. Just leave it as like a field without anything special in it. So to do a quick recap of what we just done, we just set up the patient ID, which is technically going to automatically be like P001, P002, and P003. And we also set up a foreign key here that's going to store this information. So the next step is step 2. We want to go to the relationship graph and connect them together. It's actually pretty easy. Just pick the primary key, drag it to the other side, done. That's it. Simple, right? And click OK to confirm everything. The third step is to create a layout that you can view related record. So let's go to View, Layout Mode, and this time we are going to add a portal into the system. So we're going to add a portal that looks like this. And I'm not going to care too much about the look for now. I want to explain to you the concept better. So once I created a portal, I can select the portal to be displaying medical records. And let's just show 5 different rows of medical record like this. Click OK, and then I want to show the date and also the description, and then click OK. So we now have a portal that looks like this. Let me move the screen a little bit. Portal that look like this. Open this up a little bit, drag down to make the size bigger, and we're going to move the date to this side and then move the description to this side as well, and then give it a little border so we know that we can enter things inside here. The border color like this. If we go to view, browse mode now, well, you can't see anything yet, but I want to show you a quick experiment. So let's say I created a new record, P0003, and I call it Sunny, and the age is 28, gender is male. Now, before I show you how to create the button to create a related record, I want to show you a manual way of creating a related record. So right now in here I have, let's remove this. I've just named myself P0003. If I want to create a related record on this side, what I would want to do is to create a new record and then name it P0003 and then start typing something here. So like 1st of January, something like this. So what I'm trying to tell you is that you can actually do it without any sort of scripts, but it's kind of manual and it feels kind of stupid, but it will help you understand better the concept behind it. So we go to the medical record layout instead, open the table view, and then we're going to add a new record in here. Now we're going to click modify so that we can show our patient ID field as well. So we're now showing patient ID, description, and date. So let's change this to be exactly like our example. 1st of January 2018, and I typed it something in here. Description is something. Patient ID is P0003. Now, once I set this up, it should magically appear in the portal on my patient record. Have a look. You see, it's automatically added here. So if I keep doing this, so I'll duplicate this record. It's still P003, and let's do hello, exclamation mark. Go back to patient. You realize that the related record has been added. Now we just use the manual way of adding related record. It might seem dumb, but that's the first step to help you understand better what's happening. Now we now have this table being set up, we now have the relationship being connected, and we also have the layout being set up so that we can look at related record. The final step is to create a way so that you can add or remove related record. Now I'm going to start with the easier one. We're going to add record first. So what we can do is that we can go to File, Manage, Database, and inside our Relationship tab, there is a equal sign icon here. Double click onto this. On the left side, we see that we have the patient. On the right side, we have the medical record. So I'm going to take under the medical record that allow creation of records in this table via this relationship. Click OK. Click OK again. Now you realize that a third row has been appeared, but I didn't really create it. And even if I go to medical record, there is not a third record with P003. So what's happening is that once you check that option to allow it, your portal, the last row of your portal will always be empty. So I can start typing something in here. Yoo-hoo, like this. And then, well, it already got a date in it. I already set up in advance. So what it does is that once you start typing things inside this field, it will automatically do what we just did with the manual process. And we look back into our medical record database, the system has automatically created a P003 record under the description Yoo-hoo on this date. So that's like the easy way to create a related record using a portal. Once I have the portal creation method being created, the next thing I want to do is probably to delete the portal record. So to do that, I want to add a button. So if we look at our final example, So if we look at our final example, we have a button that looks like this, and when we click onto this thing, delete, it's going to delete the record. That's what we're trying to do here. So to create a button, go to layout mode first, view, layout mode, and then we are going to create a button here. Drag a button here, and then we're going to use an icon X. Now inside the icon step, use a single step and use delete portal row. Click OK. So what this thing does is that when you are going back to the browse mode and you created, you click onto this delete portal row button, it asks you to confirm if you really want to delete this, and you click OK, and it's gone. So that's the most simple way that you can add and remove related record. And what I want to move on to next is something more advanced that you can do using scripting to create a related record. So in a lot of cases, scrolling down to the most bottom record is probably not the best method. And in the future, when you want to create many-to-many relationship, it's going to be a problem. And I want to teach you the basics of how you can create a record without using that allow method that we just use in the database relationship setup. So we're going to reverse what we did, go to relationship, double click onto this and uncheck this thing. And we are now back to ground zero. So what I'm about to teach you is how to use script to create a related record. If you don't know what script is, I would suggest you to first check out the script basics tutorial, and I will put it in the link in the description. And well, what we're going to do is that we're going to use script to imitate what we do just now in the manual method. So what we did just now is that we save this value P003, we memorize it, we go to the medical record layout, create a new record, enter in here P003 and some value here, some value, and then we go back to the original record in the patient database and see it up here in here. We want to imitate this step inside the script. So let's go to script, script workspace, and add a new script step. Okay, I'm going to use comment here using a hash. It's not actual function script, but I want you to know the logic behind what I'm doing. So first step, we want to save the patient ID. And the next step, we want to go to medical record layout. And then we want to create a new record. And then we want to set the medical record as P0003. Well, actually, we want to set it as the value that we saved on the first step, but I want to relate it back to our example. Once we do that, we want to go back to original layout that we start with, which is the patient layout. So let's start with the first step. So I will assume that you already have some knowledge in calculation and script, and if you don't, it's probably not going to make sense to you too much, and I suggest you to view other tutorial first before coming back. So the first step, save the patient ID, click enter. We are going to use a script step called set variable, and we're going to click onto it, and let's call this ID, $ID, and we are going to save the patient ID from the patient table. And then we're going to go to the medical record layout. We're going to use a script step called go to layout. And then we're going to go to medical record here. And then next step, we're going to click enter new record / request. That way we can create a new record. And the next step, once we created the new empty record, we want to set it as P003, or actually we're setting it as the $ID that we just saved. So we're going to use a script step called set field. Click. We're going to change it, the medical records foreign key, the medical records patient ID, into the value of $ID, which we just saved it on the first step. Click OK. And then once we did all that, we're going to go to layout and leave it as original layout, so it will go back to where the layout is when the script just started. We're going to save this. Let's call this create medical record. And right click, save, and we're going to apply it to the button that we have here. So we're going to apply it to this button. Go to View, Layout Mode, double click into medical record, and then we're going to do create medical record. So let's see what happens. Go back to browse mode, moment of truth, click create medical record. You'll see that it automatically create a new field in here. And it's not only going to work for me, myself, and using a P0003. If I create a new record, Johnny, click create medical record, it will show up in here like this. And if we go and check back in our medical record layout, you will notice that we have created 2 records for Johnny as well. So I think that is the most essential basics of relationship that I think you need to learn. And it's very important that you understand how to create related record using the script that we did just now, because in the future, when you're doing many-to-many relationship, well, I think I should explain further. It's like right now, our relationship is very simple. It's one-to-many, one patient to many record. But in the future, there will be relationship that is more complicated, like many-to-many relationship. For example, maybe like one customer might have multiple invoice that might have multiple item that is based on different product in your product catalog. So it's a more complex type of relationship. You will need to be able to understand how to do this kind of script in order to create those records efficiently. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope you're able to understand a little bit better what relationship is about in FileMaker. And if you're a beginner and wants to really learn more so that you can use FileMaker to organize, streamline, and automate your work, you can go and check out my 12 weeks email course in the link in the description down below. It's basically an email newsletter that sends you 1 email every week, and then it will show you through some of the most important basics of FileMaker that all beginner needs to learn. And yeah, definitely check it out. And that's it. I guess I will see you around. Thanks for watching.